So, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a big moment for us. So, Michelle, my beautiful teaching friend, Michelle, who's Canadian. As a Canadian, I'm very grateful that we get to unite together today to do this beautiful launch slash first sort of conscious discussion that I've sort of had on my heart this year. And it's interesting how this came to be because I was asked to do essentially an interview not too long ago with someone who has been given stage 4 cancer. And it was interesting because I didn't really, God works mysteriously this way. And I had this on my heart to ask her after she asked me to sing for essentially her celebration of life while she's alive. And I decided to ask her because my heart called out to share an interview and a discussion about what it's like to be her. And I was really moved by that. And it started to shift around some ideas of sharing some conscious conversations, heart to heart, soul to soul. And I think just having graduated from receiving my doctorate in ministry, I've been really thinking about what I want to do. And I have on my heart, I'm only interested in sharing moments with people that I've personally vetted in my heart, discerned in my heart. And it's really to remind people that everything is connected to everything. So I am so grateful to have Michelle, beautiful Michelle Fizzard here. And we met because life aligned us from our hearts. And, something happens when your hearts meet another heart in that truest, most pure presence of love that you can have. And it doesn't mean that we're not nervous. It doesn't mean that we're not shaky. I remember meeting you. I was so nervous, so shaky, so like excited, but at the same time real. And my goal and intention in doing this work and in this ministry is I'm interested in real stories without masks or veils. Real human beings cry, real human beings laugh. And at times, life is brutal. So I know all of the spectrum of those truths. And I think today, after COVID, we need to have more conversations that are real, where shame just goes away and dissolves. So whatever happens in these spaces is natural, organic, and from our hearts and our souls together. And I think with that, we're in good company. So so what I'm going to just start doing, Michelle, is I wanted to begin by just sharing who you are. So let me just start with saying this. So we met essentially, do you remember what year it was?
I don't, but if Jackie was here, Jackie would remember.
Yeah, so Jackie, let me just share a little bit about who Jackie is. So Jackie and Michelle are both teachers in Ottawa, in Canada, so the capital of Canada. And I was basically introduced to them because I think, Michelle, you had reached out. And why don't you share just that part of this? So how we met.
Okay, so originally we met because I had heard your beautiful song, My Heart, on Christian Northrup's show on Hay House. Right. And when I heard it, I knew that I loved it. And I thought, Jackie is going to love this song because she uses music in her classroom a lot with her little kids. So I decided that on Christmas Eve, I had the tree all lit, she was sitting in the chair, and I shared your music with her. And it was such a beautiful moment, and we were both crying. It was beautiful. So then I reached out to you shortly after. We were both going to a Hay House event. Remember that?
Yes.
And yeah. And I said, I had written, I think, something on my blog about your music and how it had inspired the children that Jackie was working with. And so we decided to meet up at this Hay House event. We quickly met. It was just, hello, how are you kind of thing. And then we sort of connected more through emails, etc. Right. And then you came to Ottawa.
Yes.
Right? So also, I don't know if you want me to carry on or should
I think that's a good start to just sort of touch on it. And then the reason why we're here today, let's just go into that. So Michelle has just written this beautiful book called Amazing Grace, and it's a true story of a classroom cat. Yes. And what I love about this beautiful story is that it's not like anything I've ever seen before or felt before in a book. And I think it's needed right now. I think it's needed for so many reasons because I think that teaching has changed the way,
Oh,
at least the way that it was done in the past. I think teaching is changing, it's evolving. And especially after COVID, I think we need to have conversations about real life, and children need to understand emotional intelligence.
yes.
So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to start with this book, because it is about that very thing. And so why don't you just share a little bit about just, I think ultimately what Amazing Grace is about, the way you'd like to.
Okay. So Amazing Grace is based on a real classroom cat. I'll show you the pictures here at the back. Right here, you can see little Grace that lived in my best friend Jackie's classroom, who I just mentioned. And Grace came to school and spent 2 days a week in the classroom. And like any animal, became the heartbeat of that classroom. And the children absolutely loved her. She made them laugh. She made them feel comfortable with reading. It was just a beautiful story. And then there was some tragedy because Grace, even though she was only a year and a half old, passes away. And so my best friend has to go in and deal with this with her class. And it was I just remember that day, poor Jackie, she had to go in and share this terrible news with her class that Grace had passed away. And one of the things they did in that moment was to write and share things they loved about Grace, memories. And that sort of started that healing process for that class. And it continued on like they started with one pink piece of bristlecboard. And by the end of, I don't know, maybe the week or 2 weeks, they have 5 pieces of pink bristlecboard that were covered in love notes to
Oh,
Grace. So at the end of the book, I actually put in a place in the book where children could write love notes to their own animals. And for me, I think one of the reasons I wanted to write this book, there are many,
yeah.
was because when I was about that age, I lost my first cat. And I remember how horrible and how hard that was. So it was almost like I was meant to do this, like that happened to me. It was really hard. And then now, many years later, I'm writing a book to help children heal when they lose an animal.
Right. So that they're prepared for something in a context that they can understand, and
Yeah,
also that that it happens. It's a natural part of life.
it's natural.
And I think that that's the thing that really touches on my heart. And I think, we don't need to shy away from the fact that there is a natural organic process to life. And I love how you captured it in the way that it's just so eloquently done.
Thank you.
And I think as a teacher, you probably have seen or perhaps witnessed children go through things where there isn't the right tool to
Mhm.
actually offer the appropriate conversation or the appropriate discussion. And that to me is what this is about, is that your experience as a teacher has I think, shown up in a way that has a tool to utilize in a classroom setting or at a home, between a mother or a father, sharing the truth of how, animals transition ultimately.
When Grace passed, that was one of the things for Jackie was she didn't really have something to pull and say, okay, we're gonna, you
Right.
know, use this book to help with the healing process.
Exactly.
And so, she went in. I think she had Rainbow Bridge, that poem, but it didn't really speak to the children that she was working with in the way that it often does for adults.
Right.
So I think that was another reason why I felt, okay, we need to write this book. I think I mentioned to you earlier, but this book chose me.
Right.
I was writing another book. I had other projects on the go, and I found myself when Grace passed, knowing without a shadow of a doubt that this book was meant for me and that I was going to write it. But at the time, I still had a lot of fear around writing and putting my writing out into the world. But life stepped in, and I met some really incredible people, including yourself, who inspired me to keep moving and to go after that dream of mine.
Right. Well, I think that that's the part of this that just really, I think, is honest, real, and up close and personal. And it's interesting with the last talk that I had with Maggie. It was interesting because she has written a blog essentially for a number of years, and she made a statement that she loves saying is that writers just write.
Mhm.
And it really reminded me of And I will say, after my father transitioned in 2011, one of the things that really changed in my life, I was never really a reader. I didn't really
Right.
read. I mean, whenever I would read, it was, just sort of like, "Ah, I'll read this or that," but it wasn't really with an intention, perhaps. But
Right.
after my dad died, I needed help. I needed to know what the heck was, going on in my life. And I couldn't drink in books fast enough, which is, I think, a really important thing to remember is, there are people in the world writing books to help heal you right now.
Yes.
And you're one of them. I know my music is very similar to a
Absolutely.
book in many ways because it caters to the emotional need of the heart, the
Yes.
soul, the spirit. And I think like you had said that, this chose you.
Yes.
I have to say, I understand that because 11 years ago, music chose me with God. And I wouldn't be able to do any of this work if it didn't choose me. It's a calling in a way.
Yes.
And
That's
it
same.
calls you from a depth within you that is as deep as you can go. so,
It really is. Yeah. And
so I
for
really,
me,
I love that.
yeah, for me, the writing calling actually came many years before that.
Yeah.
Um, I was my friend Jackie, but she was losing her cat Cuddles,
Right.
and Jackie isn't married and doesn't have children. So I said to her, I will go with you, and so you don't have to be alone when your Cuddles transitions. So we
Right.
went to the vet, and we were both, and I say standing shoulder to shoulder. I remember I can visualize our vet, and as Cuddles took her last breath,
Mhm.
there was like almost, I don't know, I can't even really explain it, but there was a feeling that came over me, and I knew that I was going to write a story
Yeah.
about it. And I
It's a
knew it was going to
knowing.
be about a cat. At that time, I thought it was going to be Cuddles. Little did I know that, there were other things coming down my path. And that was great. So I did actually start writing Cuddles a story, and I think someday I will go back to that story. But I was led to Grace's story right now in my life.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I think this is where, and it goes back to just touch on the fact that I think we know before we know. And, these are the things that are so, like, I love hearing that because we're going back for you, I mean, a number of years ago.
Oh man, 20 something
Yeah.
maybe.
So when you have that knowing, it's sort of like, well, it's sort of a little whisper and you're like, well, what is that? And wait a minute, what do I do with that? And it takes a while to sort of sort itself out. And here we are with something in manifest. I do want to just say one more thing while
Okay.
I have this up. What I want to just have a moment with you and share is that I know what it's like to manifest something from your heart.
Mhm.
So when you get something, and I love sharing this part of when you bring something into the world from your heart, it becomes a physical, sort of intellectual, they called it intellectual property for a reason, but
Yes.
it is from inside of you, literally. And I
Yes.
think what's really neat is when you create something as a creator, you recognize that your heart and your soul and life came together to put something into the world. And that's where this comes in. And I think this is quite new for you to hold this, but what was it like, opening up that first box? I know what that feels like. What was it like?
It it's very hard to put into words. And I waited for Jackie to come because this has been sort of our project. So we sat actually in this room, and I opened up the box, and there is a video that I have, and like pulling that book out, and I don't know, even now, like, when I touch it, it's like it has an energy of its own.
Because it
And I just
does.
remember feeling it, and us both of us flipping it over and seeing the back, and seeing, because we hadn't seen all this before.
Right.
And what we haven't mentioned yet is that my daughter, who was 16 and 17, is the illustrator of this book.
Mm,
So that has a huge power for me as well,
of
knowing that.
course.
And if I flip back to when I was standing next to Jackie, 2 days later, 3 days later, I was on a plane to China to adopt Charlotte. And here we are, well, she's 18 years later, and she's the illustrator of this book.
It's incredible.
So, so incredible how.
As a mother, and also too, like, I think what it's showing her at her age of 18, I mean, look what she's done at 18. Like, talk
I
about
know.
amazing. Couldn't have done that at 18. I was a mess.
Me neither.
Yeah, I
I'm
was.
not sure she really knew what she was, or I didn't know what I was asking her to sign up to. It was a lot of work.
Yeah, and just while we're talking about this, I mean, look at the detail of just this. Oh, I'm
Oh,
just bear with me, but the detail of just what we're talking about here,
such a good
and
job.
like the pictures are just so beautiful. I
I know.
mean, you can't possibly
It's so diverse,
I
like the
mean, you
children
can't possibly
inside.
put
Yeah.
words on. I mean, as a mother to see that, I mean, it must
Oh,
just
yeah.
like just
It's unbelievable how this all like here. Like Jackie is a character. My best friend's a character in the book. My daughter illustrated the book, and I wrote the book.
yeah,
That
it's
is
just
amazing.
incredible.
That's amazing in itself. For Grace, for sure.
So, while we're sort of on this, so I asked you, I know I had asked you your intention, and I just wanted to sort of amplify this because I think intention is very powerful because that's when the universe comes in to support it. So your intention that I wrote down right before we started recording was this project, Amazing Grace, to put it out into the world and that it has an energy. So you've touched on that. So it has an energy and that it chose you. And I
Yeah.
think, you know, your intention is just to, again, put grace ultimately into the world, and grace being the cat that sort of has taught us all something about, I think, just something we hadn't considered until it happened. And that's
Right.
sort of where real life sort of reflects back the truth, and something happens in that space. So I really love your intention because I sort of see this vision right now in the world, where I think that we put out this truth and this love, and then this love shows up to meet it. And then there's this thing that I have to share is that that's when heaven on earth starts to bloom. And I
Yeah.
think
Love
that
that.
this is something that I've seen for the last 11 years doing what I do around the world.
Mhm.
And I'm really interested in, you know, on an iPhone, how you zoom in and you can make something
Yeah.
bigger. I'm very interested to zoom in on that and what happens when we support people doing good things. Because I'm going to say something that might not be favorable, but there's a lot of famous people doing things that for me don't resonate with my heart. They
Mhm.
don't resonate with what I want, the kind of world I want to live in. And I think what I love about what you've done is you have created something in a world in which I can relate to and in which I want to live in. So I want to ask you, you know, if you could just open up your heart in this moment with a dream that you have or a vision that you have, what do you see as your heaven doing this work?
I mean, the first thing that comes to me is being able to share something with people like you
Yeah.
and to share it with children. So I think for me, it's that connection, that deep connection with people. Being
Mhm.
able to sit here and talk about this book, being able to, next week I'm going into Jackie's class and to share that with the kids in her class.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's about for me. It's about bringing grace out into the world,
Yeah.
and both figuratively and literally,
Yeah.
and just seeing where it goes. Like I wake up every day, and usually the first thing that I think about when I wake up, I know that's the most important thing I need to do that day. And that is what I've been doing. It's just leading me wherever I'm meant to go.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the thing that's so wonderful is having been in the classroom. You know,
Yeah.
I think you being a teacher and Jackie being a teacher, it's so common to you. Whereas for me, it was, you know, it was really just like I hadn't been in a classroom really like that since I was a child. And it's so interesting to go into a classroom. It's like you enter this different paradigm that you didn't even know existed, right? And then
Forgot.
that you kind of remember, but you're not really sure what it's like as an adult, but it puts you back into the sort of the awe of being a child. And Jackie's teaching, is it grade two? Is it grade one and two?
It used to be grade two. She's actually teaching grade three this
Okay,
year.
I was just curious. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's
So
gone up a grade.
yeah, so and the reason why I want to just sort of touch and open it up even on that is that when you're a teacher, I think teachers are so undervalued in the sense that you are literally creating the future minds and the future hearts, you know, in co-creation in the world. And it's a
Exactly.
job, you know, I think most people recognize some version of that, but I really I know that I had certain teachers that I'm sure you did that really
Oh,
stand out. And I can guarantee you, you're those teachers that will always stand out to these children. And I think in that sort of space, there's something in it that there will be many things that come out of what you've offered these children that will go with them throughout their life. And I know, like, even just going into Jackie's classroom with you, you were the sort of the catalyst that brought us together Jackie's amazing classroom was the
Oh,
classroom.
yeah.
And I will never forget what I learned that day was that um, I have so much to learn. Just the number one thing.
We all.
And, like I remember playing the piano and I was so, I think emotionally, I think just touched that these children knew the words to my song. I had never experienced anything like that in my life.
It was
Didn't
so
expect it.
beautiful.
I did not expect it. And then when I was playing, I had never been an accompanist to someone other than myself, really. And I had to accompany these children singing my song that I couldn't sing because I was crying.
It was so beautiful. Like you started, and then all these little voices just joined in. It was
Yeah,
like
it
it's like
was just.
whoa.
But
It's
and
beautiful.
the reason why I say this is that when you go into the classroom, going back to your point in this, but when you go into the classroom with your heart in this book, I'm interested to see how that feels for you, and I'd love to have a chat with you maybe after just about
Yeah,
what that's like because it's going to be very emotional. I'm certain of it.
very emotional, very different for me
Yeah.
because I work in a middle school. So I work with like right now I was doing working in an autism class, and now I'm working with students who are new to the country, which I'm absolutely loving so
Wow.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing. Mhm.
That's so cool. So why don't I do this? So let me, I'm going to just do a screen share here. So bear with
Okay.
me for just one moment, but I'm going to pull you up here because I want to really put the spotlight on you here. All right. So here's your beautiful website. And while we're on the subject, your website is michellefizzard.com. So,
Michelle B. Fizzard.
oh, my apologies,
Yeah.
michellebfizzard.com. So you've got that there. Everybody can see that. And so I know that you can order this book on, you were saying Amazon,
Yes, so there's two ways to order it. So one is you can go to Amazon and Google my name, Michelle Fizzard,
right?
um, and it will come up anywhere in the world. And then if you order from Amazon, you will get a soft cover copy. So I think if you live like in another country, this might be the easiest way to get the
Right.
book.
Yep.
If you're in Canada or the US and you'd like a hardcover copy, which is my preference, and then I've been signing copies as well. So if
That's
some
wonderful.
people like that.
Yeah, and the best, I mean, if anyone has any questions too, what I love about this sort of grassroots, creation and co-creation is that, when people actually support you, they're supporting this type of consciousness, and there's something to that. And I just want to speak to sell that because it's very important that we support people doing amazing things. I think right now is the time to do that. So if you're watching this, a way to put some energy into the world this way, and having done this for 11 years, it's sometimes hard when you're the person to ask people to do that. So I really want to encourage anyone that's watching this to put some energy from your life and your heart and your soul into something that's doing something to help the future world. And I think that that's how heaven starts to bloom. So speaking to this, you can go to the website and order the book if you choose, or reach out to Michelle directly. And I'll put a link also in when this is posted on YouTube. I'll put all the links to you underneath. So you'll see them there if you're watching this. So just scroll down on YouTube and you can click any of the links. And I want to read this beautiful sort of, I think, just snapshot of who Michelle is. And I'm going to do this for her. So Michelle was raised in the beautiful province of Newfoundland. A rugged beauty surrounded me. Kindness and love were as abundant as the air I breathed. I grew up in a time where you knew how to entertain yourself. I spent hours and hours lost in my thoughts. Piles of wood were a kitchen, my singing stage a swing, dolls my children and my cat, my dearest friend. It was a place where my imagination ran freely, and my writer and I fell in love, and stories ran like waves through my heart and head. Beautiful pictures here just to show you
Yeah.
some of the gorgeousness. And I'm not sure when I abandoned my writing self, but I'm guessing somewhere around the age of 10 or 11. According to my grade 5 teacher, Mr. Driscoll, I loved writing stories and poems. My favorite topic, cats. How perfect, right? And Michelle, while I'm on this, is an amazing photographer. And, on her Instagram account, you can go there and instantly fall in love with the pictures she posts because they're real. And it goes on to say, unfortunately, the world would tell me I was not a writer, and sadly, I would believe them. And thankfully, life has brought my writer and me together again. Until I breathe my last breath, we will run freely together like we did when I was little. So I think the thing that is really cool about what you do is that you offer a blog about people to live their dreams. And here's what I know to be true. We all have dreams. And the real question is, do we allow our fear to block us from living them? And here's what I know to be true is I was once a dreamer without my dreams manifest. You were once now a dreamer that your dreams were not manifest, but they are now. And from two creators that co-create in this vein, I just want to encourage anyone that watches this or sees this live or on a replay to remember your dreams, because when you, and I know this, you're going to see this more and more, Michelle, but when you have your dream that's been inside your heart, sort of in this cocoon of uncertainty, when it is birthed, something happens that you cannot put words on. And I'm still trying to figure this out, but I want to just share that when you birth something that's been sort of in this cocoon of your heart, it offers you a nourishment that nothing else can give you, because it's in service of helping someone else understand the light or the path of love that exists within us. And the inside creates the outside world in a perfect world. And when this starts to happen with consciousness, I truly believe that the world changes and shifts. So I really just, if you want to find out some information of inspiration about writing, I think Michelle is a great resource for this. And this blog is a wonderful, I think, just offering that you offer.
Thank you.
It's a service. So this blog is an invitation to rediscover your wisest self through the gifts of writing, to dig through the rubble left by well-meaning people in our lives and find our writers, where we will explore our lives with a pen in hand. While writing, we will not solve all our problems. It will help awaken long-lost desires and penetrate the soul's deepest yearnings. Writing has changed my life, and if you are open to walking the path of self-discovery, it will change your life too. To write, you must learn to trust your thoughts. Check mark, I can assure you that's very true. Be okay with writing badly. And that's the truth. I am a perfectionist that got in my way because I thought I would never be good enough or ready enough.
Yeah.
And then what happens at the end of your life is that you realize you missed your dream, and I didn't want to get there. So it's okay that you're not perfect. In fact, that's real. And that's what the world needs right now, is the real. So anyways, to dig deep enough to find the good stuff, kick the voices of our past, those that told us that we couldn't write, to the curb, essentially, and forget grammar, punctuation, and spelling. You can always edit later. And then Michelle's mission is to encourage essentially you to write often, and to trust that pain inside us to point us in the direction of self-growth. And it's time to let our light shine. And I can assure you that that's true. And it's time to become the authors, the bloggers, the journal writers, the diary keepers, and the storytellers, and the musicians. And it's time to find our way back home to who we are at the core, and to let our light shine. And I think Marianne Williamson, paraphrasing, is, our greatest fear is actually to let our light shine. And the reason why is we don't want to be condemned by those around us. So I just think that this is a beautiful, just a beautiful moment in our lives. So I'm really just, thank you so much for your willingness to do what you do, to not let your fear get in your way, and to live your dream. And wait till we meet in another 5 years, or when we share sort of, 5 years later. We'll see each other before then, obviously, but I'm looking forward to, like, a 5-year discussion, or maybe a 10-year discussion, to share. You're in this beautiful birthing of this gorgeous story. So I'm interested to see where it takes you, and I will follow it. And I know everyone that's watching this will as well. So sort of making history here, or herstory, as my say. And one day I will find the right words, and they will be simple. I love that. So while we're just sort of back to our discussion, one of the things that I've been wanting to sort of ask you as well is, what do you see as sort of the next book that you might write? Just to put a little, I want to just put a little like light on a possibility.
Well, I the next book I want to write is actually about my dog Harry,
Yeah.
and so I'm going to photograph that as Paul said. I love photography,
Yeah.
so I'm going to actually do my own photography with that because my illustrator is heading off to study engineering in the fall, so she'll be busy. So I'm going, and also Faith. So there is another cat in Jackie's classroom. She has not been there lately because of COVID. Jackie's hoping she'll be back soon. So I'd like to follow up with that story because Faith came after Grace, and she was part of that healing process as well. That isn't mentioned in Amazing Grace. So if Faith is back in the classroom in the fall, I'm going to be heading back with my camera as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to actually start Harry's story in probably in a month or so. I'm just trying to absorb some of this grace right now, and then I'll be writing his story.
That's
and like that has a meaning too. Not as maybe deep as Amazing Grace, but it definitely.
Well, I think it will be, it will be what it's meant to be as well. And I think that that's the coolest part. The thing that I was just going to say too is, when you get to the part of doing something, it's really interesting because it's very addictive in a good way, right? So
well, it's like I'm free. It's like, okay, I've done it. I can do it again.
It's very
it's funny.
The snowball, yeah, and the snowball. I was going to say the snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're like, all of a sudden, you're going to just be like, "What is this?" Like, and it's exciting. And that first one is such a special. I think just pat on the back, maybe, to go like, you can do this,
Yeah. Well, I think for me, this book was as much a process of getting to know myself as it was about writing.
Well said.
And, Amazing Grace is also a hymn. And, you find your way back home. And I think that is what this book has done for me. It has brought me back home to who I am, to that little girl who loved to tell stories and to sing and do all those things. Not that I'm a singer, but yes. I like to sing. And, I did that as a little girl. I was very free. And I feel like I'm back to that now.
Wow, that's so wonderful. I love hearing that. That just does my heart really good. Yeah. And that's, at the end of the day, this is the thing that I know to be true too, is you just touched on this, is that we're all kids. We're all just little kids trying to figure out how to be adults.
I think that's true. I always remember when you came to the classroom and Jackie had a painting project and you had your hands dipped in the paint and red.
They're big.
Remember that? Yeah. It was so much
I can
fun.
reach a whole octave with one hand, which I'm very grateful. Yeah. But I remember just, seeing the kids, paint. That was so fun, by the way. I remember as a kid, I used to love finger paints, and I was just like a kid in a candy store with the kids just doing that. And it was such a different time before COVID too, all the crazy stuff. But so what I'm going to do here too is I'm going to share a few visuals. So I've set up a slideshow, as Michelle knows, and I'm just going to do this here, and we're going to hit play. Just so we've got this up. So I want to just sort of touch on a few things that just to put some order into this flow. So Michelle knows that, love is really, it's connected to everything. Everything is connected to everything through love. And when we do that, something happens. So I just put a few slides here together. I want to just speak to, obviously, Michelle's book again is Amazing Grace, a true story of a classroom cat. And, again, just the illustration of this by your daughter, Charlotte, is just an incredible, I think, testament to you as a mom, and I think supporting art in such a, I think, whole way there. And I'm interested to see where that goes for her too. And just please send her my love and everyone's love. While I'm on this subject, I have also started with Michelle first, but I really wanted to do that because our stories are all interconnected. So I also am very grateful that my next sort of talk and share will be with Sister Dr. Jenna. And she just put this book out about meditation, and it sort of takes away some of the challenges that people feel blocked with. And I really like this, that it's a lot of stories. Jean Houston's very, very famous, that she's in this book to start it off. And there's a myriad of beautiful people that I actually know that have written in this book, which is just neat. So Sister Jenna sort of is sharing this work right now, especially for these times, which I think is really powerful. I can safely say that, I think, Michelle, you can safely say too, that, when we meditate or get into a reflective, mindful space, that's where this stuff comes from. And we have to sort of be quiet enough in our chaotic minds, because I have a chaotic mind at times. I get scared a lot. I often worry way too much, just the real me. And when I get calm, in that meditative state, I'm capable of hearing my inner heart much better than if I'm in chaos. And the outside world can do that. So Sister Jen is sort of why I wanted to have her next. And what I think I want to do here is connect this cool story here. So I started with Amazing Grace on purpose. Meditation to just remember where it comes from in the center, the pillar. And then I have this beautiful story, another Canadian story that's coming together with Nancy Reagan, who's a sweet, dear sister friend of ours now. And her new book is essentially From Showing Off to Showing Up. And this comes out actually in May. And the reason why I wanted to just speak to this is that Nancy hosted the CTV Supper Hour show out in the maritime provinces of Canada. And I think the viewership was anywhere from 250,000 to 350,000 every day for Nancy for 15 years. And this story is about sort of I think just ultimately feeling some fears essentially about really just that inner voice again being a little too chaotic. And Nancy goes through sort of the story about sort of faking this this life that she had, and then figuring out that she was sort of addicted to praise and people pleasing, that sort of energy. And what I love about this story is that in it, Michelle is shared, as well as Jackie's story in Ottawa. And Nancy also shared my story with singing for Louise Hay and my work around the world with my music. And again, this is the little cocoon of heaven here, of our hearts and our souls in humility, of course, sharing really, quite frankly, love that is connected to everything. So this is just what love has brought together in my little bubble of my life so far, and I'm interested to see where it goes. But I've had some pretty amazing moments with love, and when we follow love, people like Michelle come into our lives, and Nancy. And this is just to show a picture of that day where we were in the classroom together, and Jackie, Michelle, and I were just sort of, it was so funny. I have to share just this funny part. We had no idea. First of all, we had never really met in person. So I flew to Ottawa, and it was all sort of set up, and we didn't really know what to expect, but we just had faith, right? And it's funny, the classroom cat was named Faith, which was the album that I was releasing at the time, which is The Universe. And on top of that, what's even better about this is that we all wore pink, which was so funny. None of us planned that, and we all showed up, and we were like, we all wore pink. And pink is known for the color of the heart, in the sense of the vibration and the energy. So it was just really cool.
That was awesome.
This was that moment of singing for the kids, and we spent the whole day together. It was great.
It was fun.
Yeah, so this is me and my work, and I just, if you're interested, you can go to my website and learn more. It's www.beekindness.com, BEE, kindness, to pollinate love and kindness. And this is my current project, Spheres of Love. And I have my albums essentially available on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and Amazon. This is a way, again, to support a vibration of love around the world. It's my intention. And I do want to speak to this. So I prepared today and, went into my meditative space within myself. And I wanted to just read what I wrote here first. So I was reflecting on meeting with beautiful Michelle today. And I just said, this morning, I'm interviewing one of my favorite teachers on the planet, Michelle Fizzard. Michelle just wrote her first children's book. And what I find so fascinating is God's great mystery and plan as it blooms. Michelle's book is, again, Amazing Grace, all about a classroom cat. This morning I wrote these words to remind myself of what I know for sure and what I have remembered about life as I've surrendered to God's great divine design. And what I know for sure is that when you live your purpose with the gifts God gives us, magic and miracles seem to become much more amplified. I truly believe we are all instruments of the great symphony of creation, and the beauty and dance of life happens. And I just said these words after sort of writing that to preface is always remember you don't meet people by accident. Nothing is a coincidence. You are on a magnificent, brilliant, holy journey, and the tapestry is divine design and all life itself, all the moving parts. There are so many signs along the way, and the trick is to be aware of them all with an open heart and to be mindful of who you meet as you journey. Synchronicity and pure beauty is a part of God's great mystery and the fantastic plan. Remember, the blessing of life is life itself, so be sure to enjoy the journey as it blooms. And so this is just the blooms, that have happened. And Louise is a great teacher of this. And really, she's the matriarch of how we met. So I just really wanted to honor her. She's been a huge teacher in my life. I know yours, I think, Michelle. Everyone is blessed to know her work. And I will always remember when somebody asks me, I try to remember this with humility, but oftentimes I ask people, do you know Louise Hay? And they're like, no. And you can tell a lot by someone when they say yes or no. It's sort of these two worlds that you don't know exist sometimes. And I was, with humility, one of those people that had no idea who she was at one point. But if you look into her work, it's very interesting because she's sort of a matriarch of, I think, ultimately loving yourself. And when you love yourself, something happens enough that you are willing to show up with vulnerability and heal the parts that perhaps were hurt as a child. And life is really very simple. This is Louise's affirmation, is what you put out comes back to you. And I think this is a moment of that. So I wanted to really just highlight this moment as, life is coming back to us with what we put out. And again, Amazing Grace. And I wanted to show a picture, obviously, of Jackie, Michelle, and your beautiful daughter, Charlotte, together. And this is just an epic moment of a success like nothing I've ever seen or witnessed in my life doing what I do. And I love you for it.
Thank you. It's so kind. Thank you.
A bit teary. But so I think just to end here, I want to just, I think we've sort of put light on everything that we sort of wanted to today. And I don't want to make it too long either. So I trust people's time, and I value it. So one of the things that Louise has as well is just to trust life. I wanted to just say that to anyone that's sort of wavering on it, COVID for me has been very hard. I'll be the first to admit this. I'm making no promise or claim that I am figured out. I am a work in progress and a mess at times. So I will not proclaim to be better yet because I'm still working on it. So if you're struggling, just know that these are the kinds of things that help us and get us grounded back to what will bring us together again as a human, loving, I think just, world ultimately. And I want to ask you just before we go out, without, thinking too much about this, but what do you sort of see in the next year as you sort of go around the rest of this year? What are some of your just the things that you're putting your attention to?
Well, I'm definitely going to put my attention on getting this book out into the world as much as I can, for sure. And I think continuing to follow my heart, like you mentioned, that trust. And I think I've learned to do that. That's one of the things I've learned through this process, to really trust in myself. And it is true, when I wake up, I'm often told, okay, this is what you need to do today. Yeah. And that's what I do.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So that I just want to carry on one day at a time and just see where life takes me.
Yeah. And as a teacher, I'm sure you always look forward to the summer.
Oh yeah. Especially this year. Oh my goodness.
Especially the last couple of years. My God.
I don't know why, but this year seems more intense than all the others combined. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting to hear. Yeah. Well, I feel for you on that regard. So let me just say the last thing I just want to say is just this beautiful quote from. I'm falling in love right now with John O'Donohue, and I don't know if you've ever heard of his work, but he's such a genius that I knew nothing about not too long ago. But there's this line that just really grabbed my attention. I thought I'd say it today out loud is, "May I have the courage today to live the life that I would love, to postpone my dream no longer, but do at last what I came here for and waste my heart on fear no more.
Oh my
Love
goodness.
that. My God.
That sums up
I've
my journey.
cried.
Oh,
I've listened to him talk. He died. He actually passed away in 2008, but
oh
I've found this man and I feel like he's with me from heaven, you know?
my goodness. I love that. Like
Yeah.
that is my journey. That's
Yeah.
what this book was about.
And listen, the last part, I'm going to read the last part of this as well. It's just, I think this is so cool to end with this too, is when the canvas frays and the carrack of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours, and may the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life.
That's amazing.
And
That's so beautiful. Okay, I'll be
oh, so
ordering his book.
yeah, I feel like this John O'Donohue sort of space too is just to remind us all just, what's there that we sometimes forget, like just,
Mhm.
he's an amazing man. So anyways, thank you a billion times
Thank
over.
you for having me
I'm
as your first
I'm so
guest.
grateful. Yes.
I'm very grateful too. Yeah, it has been, like I said, a beautiful journey for me, a hard journey, as most journeys are. But now to be holding finally my book in my hand,
Let's show
uh,
overtime. I'm so like beautifully grateful, amazing,
love it.
grateful.
And that's what it's about, right? Going after your dreams. And if you do it, it can happen.
And live the life you imagined.
I am. And that's,
You
I didn't want to die with regret.
Yeah.
And now I won't.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I won't continue to do other things. Like I want to write until like I said in my blog, until I draw my last breath. But I feel pretty good right now because I did.
It gets better and better. So I'm so grateful for you following your dream, and the world's a better place for it. So thank you with all my heart and soul.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right, take care. Bye-bye.